The realm. Do you know what the realm is? It's the 1,000 blades of Aegon's enemies. A story we agree to tell each other over and over till we forget that it's a lie.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back for another Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon video. As you all know, HBO is developing a new series about the Dance of Dragons set roughly 170 years before the events of Game of Thrones. House of the Dragon will feature the Targaryen Civil War, when this major house nearly made itself go extinct. I'm sure most of you have already seen some of my videos about the show. If my sources are right, filming on House of the Dragon should begin within the next few weeks. Once that happens, we should be getting new updates almost every single day. I was actually expecting more announcements already from HBO. They should be almost done with filling out the rest of their cast and crew since we're only weeks away from the filming start date. Now, if you have read A Song of Ice and Fire as well as Fire and Blood, you will already have a good idea of what major events this series will feature. As of right now, we haven't heard much from the actors, writers, directors, or anyone else working on the show for that matter. That was until now. One of the stars from the upcoming series gave some of her thoughts during a recent interview. I figured I would show you what she said so you can stay up to date with any and all information about the show. Now, before I show you what she said, I do want to let everyone know I am writing my own version of Game of Thrones Season 9. Some of you may have already seen my video where I wrote my own version of the Game of Thrones ending. Well, since so many fans were left feeling unsatisfied with how things did end, I decided I would write another season, giving some of my ideas on what direction I think the show could go in, based on where Dan and Dave ended the story. Now, I must admit, it will not be easy fixing some of the things they did, but I look at it as a writing exercise because I basically have to write myself out of a corner. Either way, it should be fun. I have already made one video where I wrote the opening scene. Since so many of you said you are interested in hearing me write the rest of the season, that is what I will do next. I just wanted to thank everyone for supporting that idea. Now let me show you what actress Olivia Cooke said about House of the Dragon, as well as the Game of Thrones fandom. The headline reads, House of the Dragon star Olivia Cooke believes the show won't have egregious violence against women. You know, depending on how you look at this, she drops a minor spoiler during the interview. I will show you what I mean once we get there. During an interview with a British news outlet, Olivia Cooke spoke about House of the Dragon, HBO's upcoming new series about the Dance of Dragons, the Targaryen Civil War that occurred hundreds of years before Ned Stark journeyed to King's Landing and made some very bad decisions. The actress said the show makes her nervous because of the reaction to the Game of Thrones final season, which is understandable. What Olivia actually said was, I'm a bit nervous about the new one. You're never going to make everyone happy, so I've just got to not listen to that stuff. As you all know, there was so much outrage over the final season of Game of Thrones, it has some of the actors on the new series very nervous. We all know the writing is really out of their hands. All they can do is their own job to the best of their ability. But if the writing sucks, then the entire show as a whole gets seen in a negative light. I think I can speak for a lot of Game of Thrones fans when I say the acting, the sets, the special effects, the score, the wardrobe, and almost everything else was phenomenal. The one thing that was holding it back was the writing. Game of Thrones had a chance of being the greatest show ever made. I know I still rank it high on my list, even with the controversial ending, but it would be number one on almost everyone's list if they had nailed their landing. What I do like about Olivia admitting this is the fact that we know they have hurt us. Dan and Dave have always said they don't go online reading criticism about themselves or the show, but the fans were so loud after they released their ending, it could not be avoided.
If you start listening to every criticism, it'll tear what you do apart, because the criticisms are, many of them, mutually exclusive. There are going to be people who think it's moving too quickly. There are going to be people who think it's moving too slowly. People who think there's too much violence. People who think there's not enough violence. And we make the show that we want to watch.
I can't stand the wailing of women.
One word, and I hit you again.
I'm telling Mother.
HBO knows we were upset with how everything was rushed. I just really hope they take this into consideration, because if any other writers ever try to do that again, someone needs to step in and make sure it doesn't happen. You either need to throw more money at them, or hire new writers altogether. New writers who would care about ending things the right way. We will see if HBO learns from their mistakes. If you ask me, I think they have been listening to us fans. They have made some good moves for House of the Dragon already. They know we all love the music on Game of Thrones, so they brought back their amazing composer to score their new series. They also know that most of us love Miguel Sapochnik, who directed some of Game of Thrones' best episodes. Not only did they bring him back, they made him one of the showrunners. I feel like they made those choices because they knew it's what a lot of people wanted. Now, let me show you what else was said because it could be seen as a minor spoiler. After she said she was nervous about the fans' reaction, the article goes on to say she could take some solace in the fact that, unlike Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon already has an ending. The lengthy conflict has already been mapped out in full by George R.R. Martin in Fire and Blood, although it reads much more like a history book of Westeros than a novel. More importantly, Olivia Cooke thinks House of the Dragon won't be featuring gratuitous scenes of violence against women, which was the biggest criticism of Game of Thrones, at least until the final season aired. Olivia said, "I wouldn't feel comfortable if I was in a series that had egregious graphic violence against women for no reason whatsoever, just because they wanted it to be tantalizing in a way that gets viewers." Now here's where she drops the minor spoiler. She also said, "I was lucky enough to read the script before, and it has changed a lot from the first few seasons. I don't think they'd be in their right minds to include any of that anymore." What I think she means here is the first season of House of the Dragon will be different from the first few seasons of Game of Thrones, at least when it comes to violence against women. Now, she wasn't very specific about what scene she was referring to, but for some reason, I feel like she might have been referring to what happened to Dany and Sansa on their wedding nights. Those were some very big differences from the books. For whatever reason, Dan and Dave decided they could go further with these scenes by having those things happen to Sansa and Dany. In the books, the Ramsay scene is actually much worse if you ask me, but it doesn't involve Sansa at all. It actually happens to Sansa's childhood friend. And like I said, the Daenerys scene is also different. Drogo doesn't force himself on her the same way he does in the show. When you think about what she said, she is right. There was no good reason for them to do that. Not only were there a lot of fans upset, but so was George R.R. Martin. He has given his thoughts on those scenes in interviews before. Now I will say she doesn't really spoil anything by letting us know what would happen, but more so of what wouldn't happen. She has read the first season, or at least the first episode, and as far as she knows, we won't be seeing anything like that. HBO is aware of the many mistakes that were made during Game of Thrones, so you'd like to think that they would avoid making them again. They should know they have their work cut out for them if they want to get back all the viewers they once had. I just hope they don't go too far in the other direction by making the show super soft. Nowadays you have to walk a very fine line, even when it is seen as art. Hopefully we will get more updates soon. If filming does begin in a few weeks, we should be finding out what other actors and characters will be in the show. As always, I will let you know any and all new information that gets released. For now, I will go back to writing my own version of Game of Thrones Season 9, and I want to thank all of you for your continued support. Have a great day, everyone. I will see you soon. Bye.